Hi guys, and welcome to today's recording of the 15 things I learned at my recent boot camp in Santa Barbara, California. Now on Saturday I did create the first one. If you go back and look through my YouTube channel, I did look at what was taught on the first day of my coaching boot camp. But so today we'll start day two. So for those of you who it would seem like it's a little confusing starting at day two, just go back to kind of my takeaways from day one. So that's why for the next slide it talks about day two. So in this video I'm going to talk briefly about the different strategies and how they work and my own takeaway from each experience. So the first thing that we did on day two is called speed coaching, which was a really interesting thing. And yes, it's very, very similar to speed dating. So we had chairs lined up, and for 5 minutes, in the first example, I was one of the coaches. So for 5 minutes, I would work with a person on whatever issue they brought up, and we did that for 5 minutes. When the bell sounded or when the instructor gave time to go, I moved to the next person moved down and I addressed them. So within a 20-minute span, I worked with 4 people. What was just really fascinating is the amount of work that could be done in this quick kind of format. What was really interesting and where I felt a lot of gratitude is the people that I had worked with, the 4 people in a row. They had come back and mentioned to me directly on how the work that we had done just in that 5 minutes had transformed them in some way. So it was a very, very rewarding experience. The next part of the speed coaching is that I would sit in the role of the client, and here is where the coaches would move. So for 5 minutes, I would have a new coach. Now, for me, I stayed pretty close to the same issue that I was working on. And so I got 4 different perspectives in 20 minutes, which was really cool. The questions that the coaches asked were very different, even how they started. One person just kind of started in terms of what do I feel are my greatest strengths. So she kind of went a little bit more off the grid and just started with a different topic instead of kind of rehacking the same thing over and over again. So it was really cool. I got a lot out of that exercise. The next one is the use of metaphors. Now, as a hypnotist, as a therapist, I've used metaphors often in my practice. And so they just kind of explain the purpose of doing so and the use of metaphors to create both distance and connection. Now, that might seem a little weird, but the distance is where you think of it something outside of you, but then as you start to go through the activity, which I know for myself when we did the role play seemed a little bit playful at first. Didn't take it too seriously, but as we went through the metaphor, it actually became more real. So it was a really good activity. The last thing that we really covered on that day was human needs work. Now, I've used human needs quite extensively in my practice in helping people understand addiction and why they get into certain patterns. So it was a really great refresher for me with the use of that. Now, the rest of the time post boot camp, I'll be talking on our last slide with regards to people, places, and things. So we'll move to next day, which is the day 3 activities. So we started that one with a 21 journeys activity, which is a meditation with movement, kind of borrows from yoga and different things. This activity, I had done some similar stuff as it pertains to hypnosis and what I had done with clients. The one thing that was added that was really helpful is the addition of movement. Because in the feedback that was received after, a lot of people found it very transformative, especially about the movement piece on how it helped release a block. So even though I thought initially I didn't like the activity or I wouldn't use that activity specifically, I really saw how it was beneficial to people. So I try to keep an open mind about how things would be helpful. Coaching 360 is next, which is seeing a problem from all different angles. So a lot of times when people are in a problem, they just kind of focus on the internal measures in which they look at the problem. But by coaching 360, you kind of look at it from a whole bunch of different perspectives outside of your own. So it's really bringing in different resources to help resolve the problem, which was very, very interesting as well. Modes of being is next. Modes of being is really kind of what parts of you have you identified with yourself. So maybe in your life when you were young, you were really the helper, or you were the achiever. Like that's how it was in my family. I saw myself as being the achiever. So in terms of learning that, you could look at how the person evolves over time, how maybe some roles have changed or some that are missed in the different stages of life. So it's a pretty interesting activity that we did as a group in trying to help the one person who, again, I'll talk in people, places, and things at the end. That was really beneficial. The last thing on that day is called triple Ps. And triple Ps is around creating a purpose, finding out what your posture is, picturing it differently, and creating a new meaning. I was paired up with a really great coach for this activity because we would get the information given by the instructor about how to do the activity. So they would do a role play, and then we would pair up and then do the activity on our own. So in this one, the coach that I was paired up with, this for me was very, very similar to like cognitive behavioral therapy and cognitive restructuring. But what I found really interesting is she really added two key components, which was the addition of movement and the changing of my cadence, which is an NLP strategy, neuro-linguistics programming strategy. So in this one, what she just simply did, when I stated my purpose out loud, she got me to slow down how I said my purpose and how I expressed it. Typically when I talk, or when I teach more specifically, and maybe you saw this in some of my videos, I have a tendency to talk relatively quickly when I speak. The adage is, a picture's worth 1,000 words, so I have a tendency to talk pretty fast. But what she suggested to me, and I'm hard-headed, so it took a couple times, that I just simply slow down my cadence. And as I slow down my cadence, the purpose had so much more meaning. So that was kind of a really cool concept that I never really thought of, but I will for sure use with clients moving forward. On day 4, we looked at getting closer to the emotion. So whenever a person is struggling with an emotion, you kind of take it outside of themselves so they can observe it and then see how they feel as they move it closer or further away, which is a very unique activity that I had never really looked at or done before. Key decisions was the next kind of global concept. Key decisions is different things at your point of your life where you kind of make a key decision. Sorry about that. Kind of make a key decision, and it can significantly change moving forward. For those that are familiar with hypnosis language, this is very close to an initial sensitizing event. And an initial sensitizing event can have a tremendous lasting impact on how a person will process information going forward. In hypnosis, a lot of times we either change the meaning of the initial sensitizing event, and by doing that, it creates like a butterfly effect. So if you change the initial meaning, a lot of times it'll create a much different outcome in the future. And lastly, we looked at archetype strategies. So the archetype strategies are kind of like different sides of ourselves. So in this one, for those of you that are familiar with parts integration, it's like the different parts of ourselves. So we all have a part of us that's like a fighter who fights for our dignity. That's the warrior. There's a part of us that's loving, nurturing, caring. So that's the lover. There's a part of us that's wise and where we can get resources. So that's the wizard, the magician, the wise man, whatever word kind of fits comfortably with the client that you're working with. And the last one is the sovereign or the king. When you're looking at an issue or a problem, so for me it was an identification about male friendships that I've had in my life. We looked at what each archetype would suggest to me as it pertains to that problem. My coach had done a wonderful job of seeing me kind of play each role through and how we could change that in a much quicker way instead of just kind of maintaining a rigid structure about not wanting to change. So it was really, really interesting having done that with my coach. So the overall summary will just be around 3 concepts of people, places, and things. The instructors, I felt, did a good job. I wish we would have done a little bit more content that we did, because they would pretty much role play for an hour and then or explain and teach for an hour to an hour and a half, and then we would role play for an hour. So we kind of got through whatever it was, about 10 to 15 strategies over the course of the 4 days. But I think they did a pretty masterful job kind of helping people get out of their own head and out of their own zone. The most rewarding part for me was the people I met. From my roommate, who was from Belgium, just a great character, to the different people and the different ideas where people would like to take coaching. It was really rewarding. Most of the time that goes into places. We would gather by the pub and the fireplace outside and would just share ideas and laughter and concepts on how to help people once they get back to their hometown. The diversity of the crowd was amazing too, because the people that I felt closest to were from California and Belgium and Denmark. It was really great just hearing where people are at, where they're at in their lives, not as it pertains only to coaching, but where they're at in their lives and the vision that they see for their lives. Different places, obviously in Santa Barbara, we're staying at a very amazing resort right along the water, so we got to see the beach and the mountains in the background every day, which was kind of a great contrast. So on the one side of my view from my hotel was the ocean, and on the other side it was a mountain view. So it was very unique. Visited some places along the beach and went to a Thai restaurant with a group of us. We really found that after that first night of maybe awkwardness or shyness, we kind of collected maybe 12 to 20 of us on a nightly basis, just kind of exchanging ideas and laughs at the pub. So it was really, really wonderful. So the last thing is around things and what are my own personal next steps. I learned a lot when I was at the workshop in terms of how to more effectively help clients with coaching. My next steps is really to incorporate that within my psychotherapy practice and helping clients reach different goals for themselves. I think I'm more equipped now to do that. My own personal next steps is probably going to do some mentoring. I already have a coach, but I'm going to kind of go back in time to my original coach and mentor and see where I can take my practice. So we're constantly evolving and changing, and that's kind of the key component to change. So that's it. That's my summary for today. Thanks for tuning in. Please welcome your comments. Like it if you like it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and have a great day.